Yeah.
So sorry. So first of all, here we've got Lauren, and then we have Heather, and we have Talon. So I'm going to go through in that order and ask you to tell me a little bit about yourselves, please. So Lauren, you go first.
Lauren Coleman. I am the founder and CEO of Catalyst Game Labs, and been doing that for 17 years, I think.
The back of the shirt says so.
Is that what it says? Okay, someone read the back of my shirt. Give me the stats. And I am responsible for pretty much kind of everything. I keep all the mice running in the same direction on the wheel.
That's what we want.
Yeah, I'm Heather Coleman, and I've been in the business with my husband and my son and my daughter for the whole 17 plus years with that. And I would always call myself the herder of cats. So if he's herding mice, I'm herding the cats behind the mice. And so for Catalyst, I'm really accountable to when there's a challenge that's happening from a creative standpoint, where I call the guys getting into a goober geeking, they come to me, and then I'm the one that says, okay, you guys, we're gonna go this direction based on what I'm hearing, because there's basically adjusting to the agreements. So
There's got to be a joke in there about cats and cats.
yeah, well, so once upon a time, we got shirts that were on the back of our shirts, and we all had to have a logo on the back of our shirts, and so or a title, and so we. Everybody said you're the herder of cats, because I would go around the conventions and really run the booth. So at that time, I was running the booth schedules, people that were there, all of the information for people to share with our new customers that were coming into the booth. All of that kind of I coordinated. So that was the herder of cats, and you were
Figurehead.
the figurehead. And you were.
I didn't have one at the
Oh,
time.
you didn't have
Well,
one
he
at the
was-
time.
I was too
Okay,
young
you
at the
was
time,
too
too.
young at the time.
He was
There you
12.
go.
He was
Yeah,
12.
I
Okay, you
was
were
like between 12 and
12. You were
15.
12.
I
Okay.
had zero job at that time. I had no responsibilities.
Yeah.
So it's not really hard to ask how you got into this, Talon.
Yeah, no, it's
It
not.
kind of happened.
He
to
was
you, right?
doomed.
Yeah.
So my name is Talon Coleman. I'm Lauren and Heather's eldest son. I got into the company very, very early. Started coming to Gencon shows when I was 11-ish. 11. Didn't quite understand all the gaming at first until I found the really cool new awesome game when I was 12 called Dungeons and Dragons, and had to come over and tell mom and dad about it and everything about how it was the coolest game ever, and that I had just found it and that they should play it with me.
This
That-
cool new game.
Cool new game.
Cool new
Cool,
game.
cool, yeah,
Very
cool new
cool.
game.
Yeah.
That was my
I mean,
first.
new to you, right?
Yeah.
That's what matters.
That was my first experience into the board gaming world in general. Actually, in fact, that weekend when I was 12, I loved the D&D so much. Young kids and their fascination at the time. I went back and reran that. Was it Wizards, right? Yeah, that Wizards demo of the Red Dragon Dungeon, almost like 50 plus times that weekend.
We lived in their booth.
I lived in their booth when
You were that kid.
Yes.
I was gone from the booth at back when it was just like freshly Catalyst, and someone wanted to know where I was at, or they wanted to know where I was at. I was at the Wizards booth at one of the demo tables playing that dungeon, and of course, there's no different dungeon. It was the same dungeon over and over again. But
Like
by
I said, he was doomed.
I was doomed.
Yeah.
But by the
Sounds
time,
like it was willing.
well, and then the top, put a cream on top of the cake there. I had ran it so many times at some point that the guy who I was sitting at the table with had to leave. Something came up, or he had to step away for a moment, and for some odd reason, I said, "I can run this for you if you'd like." And then for the rest of that day, he watched me from afar, and I ran the demos for the rest of the day for him. By the end of that show, they gifted me a Wizards demo shirt, and they gave me the Red Dragon from that demo that they were using, and I still have it to this day.
That's amazing. That's such a cool experience to be, so I've done a lot of booths and things like that for craft markets and things, and there's always a kid
Yep.
There's always a kid. And for board games and things like that, there's that one kid that just gets really interested, and it's fascinating to hear the other side of that. Because I think, someone is going away with this like core memory.
Yeah.
And here's yours.
And it still sits on the top of my shelf in my office with the original flame. I haven't lost a single piece of it. It's always protected when I travel and move. Like, it's just one of those like core memories that
Yeah.
just like really defined what I loved about gaming. And this was right at the time too where I had just discovered my dad's computer. And I was taking games that he never opened because he was so busy writing his books, and started, this the kid thing, like sneaking out, breaking open the case, slotting in the CD into the computer. And my first video game at that time, as I was playing side by side with those, was Total Annihilation. So I was getting hooked in both worlds at that time, and I think that D&D event was a core catalyzation of my direction into
well done.
board gaming. While still having a very deep, fond love of the electronic side of the gaming industry in general.
You started working for us when? Like when you were
So
15 or something?
yeah, so I started officially working for Catalyst in an actual position right around when I was 15. Back when we were first starting to not move away, but introducing ourselves into other board games outside of BattleTech and Shadowrun. We were releasing some really small $20 games like
Yeah.
High School Drama. It's the only one I can ever remember. 'Cause Merchants,
A few others, yeah.
and
You were
a few other-
you were demoing for a while.
Yep. So with from kids comes free labor. So they put the kids on the more younger board games that we were producing for families. One, because obviously at the time we weren't nearly as big, we didn't have nearly as many demo agents, and we were doing demos at that time directly in the booth. But at the same time, if the 15-year-old kid can demo the game and play the game and teach to others, then this is a game for a family.
Yes.
And from there, over the years, as I grew older, finished high school, finished college, I started just accepting more and more responsibility for certain things. Back my official first paid capacity at Catalyst came back when we ran the Duke Kickstarter. This was back in
Back when you learned that, oh, wait a minute, I could do this and get paid?
Yeah.
Back
Yeah.
in I
There
think,
we go.
Yeah, that was into that. That was into that wonderful.
I think that was in 2017, I believe. I was still in high school.
That was before
And
that,
no, because that was when we lived on the hill.
maybe.
Yeah, I know exactly where it was. That's where the laser engraver was, because that's what's going to follow up the story. Because I have a long history with Catalyst, because I've been through almost all of it now. Lauren came to me one day, and I knew this Kickstarter was running, and I was super
Let me
excited.
just qualify. He calls him Lauren, and why
Oh,
do you
yeah.
call him Lauren versus Dad?
At
Right.
the
For
show.
those
At the
who are
shows,
for
at the
those who are about to
shows,
freak
yeah.
out the fact that I call my father by his first name, it's because when you're surrounded by something like 15,000 people at these shows at all times, yelling "Dad" gets like 100 people looking in your direction.
And never the one you want.
Yeah, never the one you want.
'Cause I'm immune to it. Because I'm like, I've just tuned out the background
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
So I got into this habit years ago about yelling Lauren, because obviously for anybody, hearing your first name grabs your attention, because more than likely you're only like one of 3 people now in the vicinity. But I also use it a lot during work as well, and it's a great separation of when I know, or to let him know that I'm talking to him in a work capacity, or I'm talking to him in a fatherly capacity, because
That's a good idea.
because we do work together, and being family that works together is a challenge in and of itself. Because
Absolutely.
because I have ideas, he has ideas, and of course his direction is when we go. But obviously we're always opinionated about what we're most passionate in, and so those moments, it's sometimes we get back into the butting
Hence
of
the
father
herder
and
of
son.
cats.
Yes.
I was going to say, was this the plan? Did you decide that you were going to sort of grow your workforce, have your homegrown workforce, the way some people decide that they're going to
No,
have
we,
their own
we,
stuff
we
and
had the
all?
workforce before we had the company. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
But what do you do now for us?
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Just direction.
Because I was sharing my first job.
Yeah, I know.
My first
but,
real. No, I don't
but
care.
yeah. Oh, okay.
So my first job was that we finished the Duke Kickstarter, and we promised this really cool thing: a laser engraved board on a piece of raw leather.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who spent the entire summer cutting the squares for the raw leather and then laser engraving them?
A metal yardstick, a carpenter's knife, and big
Yep.
sheets of cowhide.
Yes,
Yeah.
real full 10-foot sheets of cowhide. That was like my first month of summer, was cutting out those little 1 foot by 1 foot squares,
and
plotting them out
engraving.
and figuring out how to use the laser engraver that we got to do this project, and doing that all myself. I was making something like $5 or $7 a square at the time. But
I
for
mean, you
big
were
money when
learning
you're-
good skills. You were getting
Yeah.
paid for it.
I was learning electronic skills using the
Yeah.
laptop that I owned for gaming. I was downloading software programs, learning how to do the lasering, what it meant to change the focal points or the intensity. There was a lot of good skills there, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm a teenager at this point, so any money is any money at this point. But then skipping forward a couple of years from that, I just
Well, he
continued.
still does all that. He's still our tech whisperer. He still works a lot on our merchandise part of our store, basically creating or finding ways to create things that our fans will love.
Yeah.
So
So
that's kind of where he started.
So-
as a super fan, I suppose, in a way yourself, right?
yeah,
That
because
you
I
could
started
run up
stepping through
inside.
positions that just at the time had empty positions. Like I was doing marketing for a long time for the company to take over a lot of that when no one knew how to do it. And of course, growing up in a technological age, the next generation tends to know more about technology. Took over that for something like 3 years, and then I stepped into that creative capacity of going back to how I started with the company, which was creating product. So a lot of times when you see like our new hats, you see fun, weird knickknacks like the mugs, or which are created by other people, but my hand is put into them of, hey, we should do these factions, or hey, we need to go this direction with them, or just coming up with new ideas like the shirt that we're wearing today. It's what everyone knows, or for those who might not know, Catalyst every Saturday at Gencon does a staff shirt where we all dress in the same shirt. I theorized the concept for this shirt this year as well, and got those produced, made, created. So I held onto a lot of that creation and manufacturing process for the company, along with, like Lauren said, younger generation knows the technology a lot better. So I run not only the creation of our merchandise, but I also run full time on our web store and keeping that as up to date as possible, finding new ways to innovate it. In fact, we're actually doing a website refresh right now that I'm heading. That's going to be done in about 4 to 6 months, and that's going to be a refresh on the website to allow us to get access to those customers who have been asking us for years to find a better way to ship to them across seas. Because that my goal is now to get warehouses in Canada, Europe, and Australia to have hubs in those. And so I'm spearheading that entire project right now.
Oh, that'll keep you busy.
We pulled
Yes.
a lot of family and friends into the company over the years, either by
Yeah.
design or just by accident.
Yep.
So, when we come to shows, it's all hands on deck. The kids always jumped in and went wherever they were comfortable. We never tell them what they had to do, just find something that they liked. Talon liked running games, and he liked doing, the merchandising stuff and being part of the overall company. He liked being part of the company structure. And Lexi just liked running the cash register. She would cosplay and run sales, and Connor liked doing the heavy lifting and moving around
moving
and
stuff. Yeah.
he liked doing the heavy lifting and create and building, and so he did that. And then when he had to sit around, he'd just go play with the squishables and sell plushies because he liked throwing them around.
Yeah.
So just they always found their place to go, and we didn't care as long as they were busy and being productive. And
When you run a company like Catalyst, it is anytime you have your own business, it's from morning to sundown. You don't have days off, and so when you're sitting around a table at home, and there's inevitably we're talking about business, and so it's really about trying to find a balance, and our family. We have our internal family here, but our family is Catalyst, and our team at Catalyst, and many of the individuals that work with us for the entire time, 17 years
Yeah, like,
with us, and so
I've
yeah.
known almost every worker that currently is here today at Catalyst. There's not almost a single one of them that I haven't known for 20 years now. And when we look at the legends in our industry, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been around for 40, 60 years. I'm already a third of that, and 13 of these people who work full time within the company, I've known them for 20 years now. Like when
people don't leave. I
yeah,
don't know.
people-
We let them come in, but we don't let them
yeah,
out.
we don't need, we don't let
There's
people-
a song about that.
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
there?
Or
but we love them.
a
But we
song
love
or
them.
but
Yeah.
but
the mob. I don't know.
Hotel California.
Well, that's true. They check in.
Yes, there you go.
But that's what it
Yeah.
really means when we've grown literally a second family inside of this company that we keep around.
Yeah, they are family.
Yeah.
This is family, and that's part of also why we've continued to grow our family section in board games because our family has grown up and it has meant so much to us that we want to continue to carry that forward with those fun family games as well. And
And those have been doing so well at
they
the convention. There are
have
like
yeah.
there are maybe 3 or 4 of each game left, and some sold
not,
out.
not even that.
We've had spikes along the way since we've been doing these. I mean, the Duke was a good one that was evergreen for us for a long time, and then Kittens in a Blender. But it's been fits and starts. This is the first year it feels like our board game section finally kind of found its own identity and really got a lot of attention. Because last year it was the same size and everything, but we just didn't have the right games out yet.
Right.
So this is really feeling like that's finally becoming a nice smooth takeoff as opposed to like the jagged, peaks and valleys. So now it's just kind of launching, and that feels really good.
And for those of you out there who are new company owners and they're like, wow, they established company, of course it was going to succeed. It took us, a veteran basically of 20 years and combined experience of almost 20 plus years, and all of us in the same company. It took us almost 7 years to figure this part out, and we still don't know what we did it right to this year. I want to point that out because it's not the fact that Catalyst is so big and that we still make the same mistakes going forward, trying to learn how do we get normal board games that aren't established for 44 years or 35 years to work in this industry.
There's an X factor,
Yeah.
and that's why our family and company motto, one of them is ready, fire, aim. It's like we learn enough to get going. We don't wait till know everything or have it perfectly launched. We go, and then we figure out, okay, did that work? Did that not work? What did we learn? Let's do it again. So ready, fire, aim has been our company motto and kind of our family motto for 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
It's what works for us. We don't sit around thinking about what we could, we don't sit around planning it forever and getting into information overload. We're just like, let's go do it and see what happens.
We're not afraid to fail. So
No.
I think that for individuals who are starting to look at running their own business or things like that, the fear of failure stops people. And for us, it's if we fail fast and we just go on to the next thing. And I think that's an important lesson that for all of us that we get to continue to journey on is just fail fast and shift and
try again,
Try
fail
again.
again, fail better.
yeah.
So that you're not as worried about sunk costs and things like that.
Yeah.
Like where I'm coming from is I've just launched my first game, so I'm a brand new publisher in board gaming, and I'm seeing this whole greater tabletop family thing sort of rallying around and helping with that. And so it's fascinating looking from my perspective, as you were just describing. I'm like, yeah, that's me. I'm sitting here going, one day I'll be able to afford a 10 by 10.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how big your booth is. But the Catalyst booth itself, it's enormous.
The total square foot?
Well, if you count the aisles that now bisect it, our booth is 70 by 50.
So that's
but there's
not
a couple
10 by
there's a couple
10.
aisles.
It's a little more than 10 by 10.
We've always been big on.
So we started with a normal Costco table that you buy that you fold out, and we were on the corner of that table, sharing it with somebody else. So
What was your cash register?
oh my gosh! So the cash register was a box. And at the time, when I had walked into the booth, the people we were sharing the booth with, they were taking credit cards in a spiral-bound notebook, and they were writing down the credit card number. So, like, that would be something like a total no, we would never do, never mind. No. So
and throwing cash in the
and
box.
throwing cash in the box. That was what we did. Oh my gosh.
This was pre-Catalyst.
Yeah.
We were working with another company, assisting them and just working together. But she came in and said, she didn't say anything. She turned around and left. We're like, oh, that was fast. And she went to Target, got like a cash box and cash aprons and a receipt book and the things that, those things,
like
right?
normal businesses might do. So that's the thing. I do some of those operations, but that was the start. So when you talk about just starting and looking at that, we had a little section of a little table.
You don't know what you don't know yet.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a 3.5 foot section of a table.
When time Catalyst actually launched, we had been working on some other things. We were at that point we were called Battlecore and doing some fiction and online subscription stuff. But by the time Catalyst launched, we knew enough that we wanted to make a splash. I think we were at 20 by 30.
20 by
our first
30.
time. We bought some basic trust work. We got some quick banners made. And we walked in and it was all smoke and mirrors. we looked so much larger than we really were. We had our first Gen Con, we had two products, and these big giant drape banners coming off the truss work, and it was just open. It was like a lot of open space because we had nothing to demo, we had nothing really to sell. We just tried to do the best we could to make it look like we were bigger than we really were. We had some old product from the Fast Fan Pro era that we brought in, but our books we had two.
So you're basically living what it is that you're planning,
Yeah.
and just projecting it out there.
And we've been doing it,
Yeah.
and we're still doing that. We're still, we're still projecting to where we want to be. It's all about where we want to be next year. Once you get to Gen Con, we're like, okay, this is just we wound it up. It's now running. What do we do next? What are we doing next year? And literally, we spent 3 days building the booth. We also like to say we work really hard to make it look easy. We're here 3 days early, building, planning, trucking, whatever we got to do, stocking, and then the minute the booth opens, we're looking around. Okay, it worked. Now what? What's next? And we're already planning next year. We start playing Gen Con next year, the day one of Gen Con this year, because we're always looking forward.
Well, it makes sense, because otherwise you'll be constantly chasing, won't you?
Yep.
You need to be ahead of it.
Right.
So you said that this used to be called something else. Where did the name Catalyst come from?
We just brainstormed it over a day or two online with a bunch of people. We had no idea where we were going. We threw out some ideas. We used a lot of thesaurus lookups trying to figure out, okay, well, what does this mean? And what does this mean? And at one point, I think I might have found the word catalyst, but someone else had been wanting something else, but they wanted something labs, but I didn't like the noun ahead of labs, and I liked catalyst. The catalyst lab didn't quite sound right, and so we just kind of brainstormed in that. Once we hit catalyst, catalyst game labs formed really fast. That was where we were.
I will say I did the beaker.
The beaker,
So
the beaker changed.
The beaker's
the
changed.
beaker's
the be-
changed,
the be-
but the beaker's still there
Yeah.
over time.
It's actually amazing how that beaker
Yeah.
has become a huge identity for
we
Catalyst.
knew we wanted a graphic element, not
Yeah.
just letters. We wanted a graphic element in there, and when we came up with the Catalyst Game Labs, we're like, well, not really beakers, Erlenmeyer
Earl
flask.
Mile
Am
Flask.
I saying that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just became like our graphic identity, and it's still. I mean, no matter what shape it's in, this is more of the dice shaped flask, but the standard flask or the dice shaped flask it's just our identity.
Yes, at the
And
first.
it's on the little dice.
Yep, that we're
If
giving
you
away.
buy things at
Yeah.
the moment, you get a little die in your bag
Yep.
Yeah.
that has that flask, I think, as the 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always on the 6.
Yeah.
So we just created that in about I think 2 days of brainstorming, and because we didn't have time, we got up and running fast. We had to make it to I think we opened in we formed in June and I had to plan Gen Con to be ready in like 2 months. So it happened quickly.
Okay. So my question is, for each of you, and sort of to tie things in and just round it all up a little bit, if each of you were to give advice, first of all, to yourself at the time that you were originally doing it, and to someone now who's trying to do something similar, would it be the same thing? And if not, what would those two things be?
Ooh. Advice to myself 17 years ago, when as I was starting the company. Really, it would have been because I wasn't quite there. I didn't quite have that mindset yet. Would have been don't be afraid to fail. Because at that point we had no idea what we were doing. We were terrified of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Ready, Fire, Aim came about really about 3 to 4 years later. We actually started saying Ready, Fire, Aim. And so probably I would have given myself that if I would have had that mindset a little earlier. Who knows what we would have done faster, stronger, better.
Failing.
Fail,
There would
again,
have definitely been some of that.
fail better.
Yeah.
Try again, fail better. And so I would probably just let myself know this does work. Don't be afraid to fail. And if I for someone right now who's getting out there, the same thing. The only thing you're going to regret is not trying. If you try and fail, you learn. If you look at it from a learning experience, did I learn something? If you try and fail and don't learn something, well, then yeah, that would be really awful. But you can't if you don't. You always learn through failure. That
it
didn't
would be
work.
very unusual not to learn from something that
I've seen people do it because they focus on the fact of failure, not the lessons behind it.
You're right.
So
Yep.
don't be afraid to fail. Just
Yeah.
learn. If you learn something, then you succeeded.
Mm.
We always these days we're like we're going to try this. This may not work. We start with what do we want to learn, not do we want to be commercially successful, not do we want to, what do we want to learn? And if we're commercially successful, that's a bonus. We start with by thinking we want to learn this. We're going to experiment, and that way, no matter what happens, we've already succeeded.
So you focus on the value of the lesson rather
Mhm.
than the financial either
Because
side.
the financial stuff does happen on its own. If you learn enough, you will figure out where to play, how to maneuver and get into business and be successful at some
Those are
level
good words.
if you
Thank
learn. You for advice here.
Jeez.
You want?
So I'll take it from the family perspective because
There you go.
when you start a company with your family, it causes a lot of tension in families,
And you
and
can't get away from your work
and
mates,
you
really,
can,
can you?
right, yeah, and so when it's your family, I would say to myself, almost 20 years ago, I would say more than 20 years ago, I would just say take a deep breath, and then maybe put some. I would have put some boundaries around conversations during family time, and that would be like in the evenings or things like that, to just put your phone away and to be family, and that it's okay that the business can be run tomorrow, that it does, we could take a few moments,
Yeah.
a few hours with the family, and just be present with us, and be when we started, it was all consuming. I mean, we were, when you deal with companies across the water, they are in different time zones, so you get phone calls at the weirdest hours, constantly, and it's very difficult now to disconnect. And even back 20 years ago, when we weren't as connected from a technology standpoint, you're still, those conversations are constant. So be present with your family. Your family grows up. They journey in their own way, and you won't get that time back. So take that time to be present with your family, because your business will be okay, because you're passionate about it, and it will succeed. So just, that's what I would say to
So
myself.
this is your advice to yourself, but this is also absolutely relevant, especially now. The hustle is such a lifestyle,
Right.
and we're all told like, "Oh, it's your responsibility." Like you get on social media, you get constant reminders. It's been 10 seconds since someone messaged you.
Right.
You must answer
Right.
this, and it's
Yeah.
incredibly anxiety inducing.
Right.
And remembering that you're a human and that your humans matter more than whatever's going on out there, I think is a really important message.
Yes. Yes.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
What you got, Tal?
I think for me, my advice that I would have given myself, you know, almost 15 years ago would have been, don't let perfection get in the way of progress. Um, for those who don't know, I also run a small board game publishing company on the side. And a lot of my delays come directly from looking for perfection from something that I'm working on. And whether it's my company or not, even when I'm working with Lauren or with Randall or with any of our designers, sometimes there's that trigger in my head where I'm looking for this.
Mm-hmm.
And I look for whatever that little thing is for so long that my windows have passed.
Yep.
I'm losing opportunities. I miss time the game launch, or I miss time the Kickstarter. I miss something simple that I shouldn't have because I would have caught it earlier if I wasn't looking for X, Y, or Z instead of, A, B, and C showing up for me instead. And so a lot of times when I was younger, perfection got in the way of my progress. And while, yes, there was stuff to learn from there, every single time that I missed those windows or missed those opportunities to look out for them next time, when you're trapped in that idea that perfection is needed, you still, even knowing the lesson, will continue missing those lessons.
Yes.
And so the Ready Fire Aim is a huge portion of that, because perfection doesn't need to be there. It just needs to be good enough until you can come back to it again
And make it better.
and make it better.
A lot of the things that we say in sort of the game design community that I'm in is done is better than perfect.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
a very hard thing to swallow.
Because perfect is never finished.
The number of designers that come up to me and show me the game they've been working on for 20 years, I'm like, what else have you worked on? Just this.
Oh,
And I'm like, maybe it was a great game, maybe it was a great game. It doesn't matter. The number of games they didn't make and could have
Mm-hmm.
is always, I'm always
Missed
sad about that.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I get it. It's their baby, and that's what I'm going. Okay, this is their baby. Even if it's a good game, they'll never let it go.
Yeah.
They'll never be ready to turn over to somebody else because they'll always want to keep tweaking. And it's always my first warning sign. And every time I would ignore that warning sign and try to do it anyway, I always regret it
Yeah.
because I get it. They know they want this game to be the one,
Yep.
and it never will be because again they're seeking that ideal. That's never going to happen. Done is better than perfect.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then you
That's
move
a
on.
beaut-
You
that's
move on to
that's
one.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good. That
I'm
is
gonna-
my
I'm
words.
gonna borrow,
That words
like-
that we
Done is
pass
better
on
than
all the time.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
done is better than perfect. So
Yeah.
yeah, so perfection, no longer looking for perfection would be mine. Because like as you said before, or as Lauren was saying, we see plenty of game designers that work on their games for 10, 15, 20 years and then they don't get anything because they're looking for perfection.
And it's,
And I even
it's impossible.
and even
Games are
me
never
working in
finished.
one of the probably
Yeah.
the healthiest environments possible for learning like game design and moving forward and other stuff like that. My first real like game design that wasn't just like a little basic card game. I made a real dice roller game that I then showed to Lauren, and it was done. And for almost 2 more years, I took what I thought was advice from other people who said, "Oh, I didn't like this. Oh, I didn't like that," or the game runs a little long. In my mind, when it comes to perfection, I had to solve those problems. When in reality is, if I had just ignored their bitching about the game being long and trying to find the stupid, crappy ways, and I say crappy with a purpose because they were not good ways. My game design was better the first time.
Yep. When you take everyone's feedback, you
Yep.
get nothing.
You
right.
cannot design this by committee.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't design by committee. My that game never launched. It never released. It sits literally. It's here at the
Haunting you.
yeah. It's in the show, in my backpack still. Not as a reminder for anything, mind you, but because I actually like the game myself. And still, occasionally bringing out the tinker with it just to remember the rules, so that way I don't lose this design in case it ever comes up in fruition again. But I missed every opportunity that I could of launching a game back when I was 18. And instead, I launched a different game almost 5 years later. It took that long between that design and the next one because I was too afraid of the criticism behind that perfection, which is why I chose that.
I mean, one of the things that I'm always telling new designers is before you expose the game to others, write your vision down. Understand what you want this game to be. It's not going to be that. This game is not going to be exactly what's in front of you now once you
Yeah.
put it in front of the public. But you need to stay true to how it has to feel for you. And I'm expecting it's the same for the whole business as well, right?
Mhm.
You've got to
Yeah.
keep that vision there and adapt to what happens. And, if everyone's saying, look, I wish this didn't do this, maybe you should listen to it. But it doesn't mean that you have to, every time anyone says anything, change it. So, I mean, from that perspective, I think that's something that really Catalyst has done really well, isn't it? Just sort of
Yeah.
going, no, this is what we're here for, but we're going to...
It's actually one of the first things that we asked designers. I actually work with Randall Bills and a couple others, and I led for a couple of years, going to like the designer dating parties and stuff like that to look for new games back when we were trying to get the board game division started. One of the first things we always asked somebody was, "How would you feel, without even though they don't know what licenses we have, how would you feel if we reskinned your game with My Little Pony? Even if it had nothing to do, the mechanics, nothing like they could possibly
We
do."
used, to, we used to ask that.
Yeah, we used to ask that because it mattered behind the mind.
We weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
It's just like it was a great one because they ever do it My Little Pony. I was like, why would you do that? Like, when they go, I don't care what skin you put on it. I'm like, okay, good, I can work with
Yeah.
It depends how thematically integrated the design is.
Yeah, it
And
does.
if it is a deeply thematically integrated design, this is a designer who also understands what they've made.
Yes.
So that's also a valuable
It's
thing.
a
But being
huge- it's
willing
a
to
hu-
work on it.
It doesn't matter if it's My Little Pony. It could have been any skin.
Yeah, anything.
What matters is their answer to the concept of the idea. And if they come back up, no, I don't want to change. I'd never change this. That tells me something about you as a designer.
Digging
They
in
go,
the heels.
while I wouldn't mind reskinning the skin that I currently have, which is, and it's not even going to be the exact concept. They'll say like, oh, the fantasy-esque concept or the science fiction concept is the idea. So while I am open to it reskinning, it needs to be in
My Little Ponies in space.
yeah, it needs
There we go.
it needs to be in this
Yeah.
category because that's where the mechanics are integral upon.
But I think
I
it
would
really
say My
goes
Little
back.
Ponies,
It
sorry.
goes back to what Lauren was saying, which was it's difficult when you have your baby, your game, your baby. It's difficult to give up anything within that design. And as publishers, we know the business so well that we know if this is going to work or not, and then we need to work with our manufacturers and our artists and everybody else to get to that board design. And if we have somebody who just is not going to
It
move,
has to have 7,000 cubes.
it's not going to happen. And we've learned that was some of our lessons learned. We've had games we bought that it was very difficult to work with the individual, and then the games really never came out. And so
we're trying to predict the market a year to 2 years from now.
Right.
Like but cats are big. Their cats are big today. Are they going to be big in 2 years? Well, cats are going to be, but something else. Cats are going to be big enough, but something else.
As a cat, as a representative of cats, I can say we continue to be absolutely relevant.
But they're like but trading games or whatever games, deck builder games.
I called mushrooms 2 years ago.
I have a mushroom game that I was developing at exactly the same time, and I went, no, it's too busy here.
We're not always right. But we are, at least we're looking at that and we're trying to, okay, where's the trend right now?
Yeah.
Where's it trending to?
You know what you want.
Right. Well, our company has a culture and a culture of what kind of games we tend to publish. Now, we have relaxed that a lot over the last several years as we've gotten more into family style play with the board game section. But Catalyst was known for dark and edgy and photorealistic art and all sorts of stuff like that, where we push.
Parachute Pandas.
And then we have Parachute Panda, and that was a game we could never have published 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah,
not at all.
I was actually delighted to see that range of. I was this is cool. This is interesting. So, last question.
Okay.
If someone wanted to work for or with Catalyst in a variety of different capacities, so feel free to choose whichever one of those you would like to talk about. What's your advice to them? So they might be a game designer pitching you, they might be someone who wants to work on the team, they might want to demo, whatever you choose.
We don't tend to open up the company for general jobs because those people tend to we find them when we need them. And they're already standing right there when we need them. So I'm going to focus more on if you want to work with us as a publisher for your game, because we do a lot. Talent goes to the speed dating for games, and I do. I oversee. When they find something good, they bring it to me. And what we're looking for is someone who is willing to work with us, someone who understands, someone who has like multiple. They don't just work on one game; they're working on 3, 4, 5. The Duke, one of our most successful games ever, was a game that almost didn't get published because the designer wasn't going to show it to us. He showed us 7 games. None of them were. Know your companies. This designer showed us 7 games. None of them were a Catalyst game. They were all wrong for us, for our brand, for our style, for our culture. And I said, you got anything else? He's a good designer, but they weren't for us. And he said, well, this game I was about to throw away because no one's wanting it. And he showed me the Duke. And I'm like, yeah, I can see why. Tell you what, I'm going to hold on to your demo. He didn't leave that booth with my booth of that demo because he just didn't understand our culture of gaming. So know who you're pitching to. Know what it is you want to get out of this. Are you just trying to get a credit? Are you trying to maximize? You could have been saying, well, I need a 20% royalty because this will put my kids through college. I'm like, but I've had that sort of ish. Like this is what I'm retiring on this game. I'm like, no, you're not. The number of games that do that you can count them on one hand. Catan, Ticket to Ride. There's very few of them. It's more about learning and having fun. If you're in this industry for mercenary reasons, you are not going to do well.
This is not a money place.
Well, there's money to be made in gaming, but you also start by the fact this is gaming. It's about fellowship. It's about fun.
Yes.
It's about camaraderie, and it's about play. That's where you start, and then know the culture of the company you're talking to. Have your goals really, and if your goal is I want to make money, sure, we all do, but what is it you really want?
Your primary. That's
what makes you happy. Is money all that makes you happy? I mean, so know that. So that way, back to what are you going to learn doing this? And if you learn something, you've already succeeded, whether you sell me a game or not. So know yourself, know your game, and know your company, and that's your best chance of getting a game placed with me. And then don't prejudge. But again, the Duke almost didn't happen because he had prejudged the game and didn't want to show it to me.
we're our worst own critics.
Everyone is, yeah.
So if you're a designer out there that is really feeling that it's not good enough, it's not good enough in your eyes, bring it to another professional who can take a look at it and then give advice on tweaking, or you're just being too much of a perfectionist with the design. But
So what advice would you give for people out there who want to come work with us?
I do a lot with the booths and running the booths, and we always, so we had some people who showed up and just said, hey, do you need assistance with setup this year? And absolutely, we'll take, as long as you're willing to take direction. And one of those individuals came back to me and said, I love this game so much. I had no idea how much it takes to set this up. And because we want to set it up for our community that's coming in. We love the people who love our games, and that's, we want it to look really good for you. But there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes to get a show like Gencon up. And so if you want to just offer support and assistance, and if you do, I'm counting on you. So don't say you're coming and then don't come to assist us. And so because that is something that you see a lot. People will come and say, hey, I want to volunteer my time with you. And
Then they realize it's work.
And then it's work. And so if you're going to volunteer, just know it's work. It's not a game, from that perspective. And just, we ask that you work hard and be with us and have a good attitude and all of that.
So if you want to work with us at a show, just offer to volunteer to start and see where that leads. It could lead to free room, could lead to free travel, could lead to it. Some people it's led to a job, but we work very hard to have fun. We work hard to make the show look like it's going seamlessly and easily.
Yeah, but remember when Lauren was talking about the being here 3 days early?
Yeah.
The first day of that is spending almost 12 plus hours in a hot, damp warehouse, moving every last bit of product, and the show and getting it sorted, and the show can't happen without it.
Yeah.
Someone has to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm usually the one out there doing it.
And folks, we do actually, for the first time, I think we've got some time lapse stuff that'll actually give you some idea of only 2 of those 3 days of how much work it is to actually get this set up. So we'll be showing that to you soon.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing is we have a beautiful demo team community, and they're extraordinary. They're all around the world who are so passionate about our games, and there's a way to be officially part of our demo team and apply for that. And if you're that passionate about our games, we would love for you to share at conventions and be part of our demo teams with that,
or local stores,
or local
whatever
stores,
it is.
Yeah. So again, family, our games are about family and about our friends, and really connecting and truly disconnecting from our technology so we can connect with each other the way that we're meant to as human beings. So
I think for me, so I was thinking about it for a little bit, but then he took kind of the best one that I would have come up to the direction, because again, I'm a creative person that would have taken that direction. I think that following that the biggest thing that was unsaid from that is to stop thinking you're not good enough to work with us.
Yeah.
We look at every range from artists to designers to just manufacturers to like layout designers to graphic designers. New, veteran, we've looked at them all. And in fact, we have hired those who are like new artists who have never worked with a gig before. Why? Because in the end, it is us as Catalyst that gets to look at your work and say, this works for us. Yeah. And like Lauren said, if you don't show us because you think you're not good enough to even apply to take a conversation with us, then the only answer we could ever give you is no, because we never get to see you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep,
You have to say yes to yourself first.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I think that's a really lovely thing to end the conversation on.
Yeah.
And so for people who are interested in coming to meet people from Catalyst, obviously they can find you at all kinds of different conventions.
Yep.
Track probably all of you down during conventions and things like that.
That's the harder
and-
one.
they know what you
Yeah.
look like now. But also obviously there'll be contact forms and things like that on the website, all that sort of thing. And yes, so this is us signing off from Gencon, and you probably need to get back to that.
Back to
booth that
work.
we
We're
used
sure.
to
We're
do.
sure it's not burning down yet.
Yeah, we got a great team.
I'm sure it's.
Yeah.
What is that? No, that's not fire. No, you're good. Cool.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for tuning in.
Thank
so
you.
thank you all very much
Yeah.
for your time.
All right.